There's not much alternative to Theresa May at the moment, and that's one of the reasons why she's showing such high poll ratings.
But let's think about this. What Blair's central message is that we can fight more against Brexit, isn't it? That's his core message at the moment, that it's not a done deal, that people need to stand up and fight, and if they do, that after we see what deal Theresa May has got, there might be a second chance of another referendum. Is there an appetite for that in this country?
Absolutely not. Again, I keep referring to polling, I'm afraid, but YouGov did some excellent polling just as Article 50 was triggered back at the end of March, which showed that the majority, even of people who voted Remain, want the government to get on with delivering Brexit. There is absolutely no appetite for a second referendum. There was a vote last year. More people voted for Brexit than ever voted for anyone or anything in the history of elections and referendums. And the Leave side won. And the most people on the Remain side have accepted that result. There is a minority, quite a small minority now. And dare I say it, it probably has more vocal advocates than it probably ought. In terms of the political class, but there is a small minority who still want to obstruct that result, frustrate it, and do what they can to, get in the government's way. And I think that's genuinely one of the reasons, particularly
Blair Jonathan has clearly made a calculation.
Theresa May wanted the election to kind of seal
Blair's
this
clearly
once and
made
for
a calculation, though, that the fight is not over.
I don't think it's quite like that, Stephen. I think the fight is about the deal, and the fact is that
and Theresa May is keep on saying that, Bishop. But ultimately, if the deal's not good enough, what then?
Well, if the deal's not good enough, then we have to consider what we're going to do next.
Exactly. So once you get to the end of all of this, there is a hint that the referendum could be run again. There is.
Well, I haven't denied that there may very well be a need for another vote in Parliament rather than another blooming referendum. As far as I'm concerned, the whole referendum thing was a mistake, but that's another story altogether. But the fact is, I have accepted that we are negotiating to leave the European Union, and that is the decision of the British people. But on the other hand, I am not prepared to give any government, a blank cheque to sign away our well-being, our rights, our functioning within the world, our sense of who and what we are, our international relationships, which are so important to the future of our young people, to some sort of doctrinaire policy.
This was all spelled out. This was all spelled out to people before they voted.
It was not spelt out. We were conned big time by the Brexiteers, by people like Jonathan actually telling, frankly, falsehoods about what was on offer and what was actually the cost of us actually leaving the European Union.
Well, Jonathan, you'll want to respond to that.
We were not told that.
I'm getting tired, actually, of having to refight the referendum campaign over and over again because of people like Stephen, who I'm afraid simply aren't willing to accept the result and the expressed will of the people.
I just said I did.
Well, you're clearly scaremongering and suggesting that our well-being and our rights are in some way under threat, when that's absolutely not the case. The government has got a mandate from that referendum to negotiate our exit from the European Union. The British people voted to take back control of our laws, our money, our borders and our trade policy, and they're going to get on and deliver it. And, I am supremely confident that we will get a good deal as a result of those negotiations, because as a country we're in such a strong position.
I don't see why, how you can say that, Jonathan. We are not in a strong position. The 27 nations have actually said very clearly that it's going to be a major cost to the UK economy. It's bound to be, and they're going to make sure it is. And you're saying we're in a strong position. It's not scaremongering. It's what the negotiating position of the 27 nations of the European Union
during the referendum,
the statement made only two days ago.
During the referendum, there was scaremongering from all kinds of politicians and people on the Remain side suggesting that the world was going to fall in, that unemployment was going to go up by 500,000, we'd go into an immediate recession, all kinds of nonsense was spouted.
But we haven't left yet.
Well, no, we were told that the day after the referendum, these things would kick in, and every single set of economic figures since the referendum have been better than expected. And you're effectively talking us down as a country and scaremongering where it's utterly unjustifiable.
I think it's very justifiable. You only got to read the statements made by the European leaders only a matter of 2 days ago, and May's very difficult meeting with them, where obviously she found herself.
Well, that is them.
Angela Merkel saying she was in a different galaxy.
No, at the very beginning of a negotiation, they are flexing their muscles and making a public show of strength. In order to, paint a picture. But this is negotiation that's going to go on for several years. And if we roll over at the first hearing from one of the people on the European side of some kind of threat of how awful it's going to be for us, then we need to hold our nerve, frankly.
Well, I await to see what happens, but
what
I
are you
still
frightened
think
of with this? With Brexit, Stephen?
I'm frightened of tariffs, because I think there will be tariffs. I think
it would hurt them more than it would hurt us, though, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure. I don't think that's the case. I think
the balance
to.
Of trade is such that it would hurt them more than it would hurt us. It is more in their interest not to have tariffs than it is ours.
Well, they can probably cope with it as the 27 nations in a way that, frankly, we will find very difficult. There are whole issues to do with the way in which our financial sector may not be able to work with the freedom it has done in the European market, which is vital to us. There are issues to do with, as far as I'm concerned, the free movement of labour, which I think is a very important part of our economy. But one way or another, the whole issue of immigration is being hyped up in a way which, again, does not tell the truth of how we rely on the free movement of labour in all sorts of ways for sustaining many of our industries and for sustaining much of our public sector. There's a whole lot of stuff which we've not begun to experience the effects of Brexit. And I want to see what the deal is going to be before I make up my mind whether we have got a good deal, without being told constantly by Theresa May and others that we are going to get a good deal, whatever. I frankly am still very sceptical about that.
Well, I'm sorry that you're sceptical about it. We are in a unique position. We're the fifth largest economy in the world. We've got the English language. We've got our historic links across the world. We've got a legal system that's unrivaled in its respect around the world. And say in terms of trade, they sell far more to us than we sell to them. So tariffs would hurt them far more than they'd hurt us, even if we had to go to trade on WTO rules, which, by the way, is how we trade with everyone else in the world perfectly happily. Even if we did go down that route, there would be potential for government in terms of the savings that are made through not having to send billions of pounds to the EU every year to help any particular industry that might be affected by that. No, we need to. Now is the time to rally round and be confident as a country that we can stand on our own 2 feet, independent in the world, while having a perfectly good and respectful and friendly relation with our European neighbours across the Channel. No one has suggested that we should be hostile to them going forward. There's every reason that we should continue to work with them, whether it be on security and police issues. There are schemes that the EU does run which are perfectly reasonable and sensible, like the Erasmus student exchange schemes or the Horizon 2020 scientific research schemes, where we could...
Well, Theresa May was warned by Europe yesterday of the many tens of billions that we're going to have to pay as our bill.
Well, I mean, again, this is flexing muscles at the very beginning of a negotiation. I accept there may be some liabilities that we are due to cover, but at the same time, there's also I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. It's something that will need a huge amount of work over the coming months. But equally, there are huge numbers of assets.
So it could be 60 billion, as Europe are saying.
Well, I think that's pie in the sky.
How do you know if you don't know?
Well, the numbers have been quoted of all different levels from various figures over in the European Union. And if they are saying that is what the liabilities are, I'm not aware that any of them have factored in the EU's asset bill, which we should surely be owed a part of to take off of any such number.
OK, we'll pause there and get the news at 12:33.